Eat the babies. Said no one ever, right? In 1729, a fellow villager by the name of Dr. Jonathan Swift wrote a modest proposal to the people of Ireland. Alright, but what does this have to do with eating babies? Well, around the 1700s, Ireland was still heavily under British rule. Yes, those people. Well, Jonathan Swift was in fact Irish, who lived in Ireland, and as a resident, he was exhausted by the continuous corruption he saw from the landlords of Ireland. To be fair, his anger was justified, as these landlords were just British people who had the funds to purchase the land. However, they did nothing to maintain their property, which over time naturally depreciated. And even then, they would charge their residents an egregious amount for rent. Sound familiar? Boomers right now. Eventually, enough hatred pent up, which led to the writing of a modest proposal, a decently long paper, or proposal, in which Jonathan Swift published to inform the public about how to handle the issue of poverty, debt, and overpopulation. And honestly, I'm amazed he was able to write all of this before the invention of ChatGPT. So, what exactly did he say in his paper? Something must have been memorable enough for me to even speak about him. Let's look at the paper. And I ain't reading all that.
Nope.
Alright, here's some quotes to summarize the proposal. It is a melancholy object to those who walk through this great town or travel in the country when they see the streets, the roads, and the cabin doors crowded with beggars of female sex, followed by 3, 4, or 6 children, all in rags and importuning every passenger for an alms. These mothers, instead of being able to work for their honest livelihood, are forced to employ all their time in strolling to beg subsistence for their helpless infants who, as they grow up, either turn into thieves for want of work, or leave their dear native country to fight for the pretender in Spain, or sell themselves to the Barbados. Honestly, I have no idea what any of them meant, but basically, he said these villagers are for the streets, and they need to stop spawning out these little villagers. I have been assured by a very knowing American of my acquaintance in London that a young healthy child, well nursed, is, at a year old, a most delicious, nourishing, and wholesome food, whether stewed, roasted, baked, or boiled. Alright, what? I grant this food will be somewhat dear and therefore very proper for landlords, who, as they have already devoured most of the parents, seem to have the best title to the children. Those who are more thrifty, as I must confess the times require, may flay the carcass, the skin of which, artificially dressed, will make admirable gloves for ladies and summer boots for fine gentlemen. I profess in the sincerity of my heart, I have not the least personal interest in endeavoring to promote this necessary work, having no other motive than the public good of my country by advancing our trade, providing for infants, relieving the poor, and giving some pleasure to the rich. I have no children by which I can propose to get a single penny, the youngest being 9 years old, my wife past childbearing. Bro was the OG troll, he was way ahead of his time. So the real question is, was any of this legit? Well, yes and no. Did Unc really say all of this? Yes, however, he did not actually want the public to eat newborn children between 1 and 2 years old. So why did he say all of this? If you read the entire proposal, there's no line or statement that shows he was joking in any way, shape, or form, but it is really evident that he truly didn't mean any of this. To begin, you must take into consideration the context of the time in which he stated his proposal. At the time, you could not offend the king without being exiled or murdered. Therefore, he is being explicitly ironic enough to where he can get his point across without getting his head chopped off. By doing so in such a way, he is able to trigger so many people, which really just proves his point. His language throughout the entire proposal is very ironic. He mocks the hoes who run around producing babies without providing any support to care for the kids, who then turn out to be thieves or beggars or the ops in Spain. He also mocks the rich and the landlords by showing the extreme measures that they would allow just to keep the broke people content. He also mocks how greedy they are by saying they could just, I don't know, wear the babies. The idea of proposing babies as food is supposed to be a jab at the state of the economy of Ireland at the time. By making fun of the extent that wealthy landlords would treat the poor tenants, he also seems to care for the poor people by offering money in exchange for their spare babies. But really, he doesn't even care about them, since he offers the whole idea of eating the babies in the first place. Not only that, but he doesn't even have any babies to offer. Honestly, Jonathan Swift is like the OG creator of creepypasta. Finally, the title should be the very first clear red flag, as once we finish reading, we come to the realization that this is not actually a modest proposal, but instead one of the most controversial and absurd proposals ever. His goal was not actually to fix the situation in Ireland, but to instead expose the ridiculousness of the entire situation at the time. Basically, this should be a lesson to not believe everything you see, and that clickbait has existed way before the time of Mr. Beast. Anyways, please subscribe. This has been Bingus.